All right, hello everyone. Welcome to Thursday. Today's our follow-up lesson on volume. Remember, yesterday we talked about rectangular prisms. So take a look at what we've got, a slightly different shape today. It's a triangular prism. Looks very much like a box from yesterday, right? Rectangular prisms were basically boxes. This is also, and that's a very funky looking box. Let's see if I can fix that. Okay, those were our rectangular prisms. So look at our triangular prism. It's exactly like our rectangular prism, except we've got two sides that are triangles. It's a triangle-shaped box. All right, and that's the only difference, really. Today you're going to learn about finding the volume of a triangular prism. Yesterday we did volume of rectangular. So new shape and a slightly different formula that goes with it. Let's do the warm-up first, a review of yesterday. It says, to clean a fish tank, you have to take out the fish and half the water. That's interesting. I don't know if that's true or not, but okay. What is the volume of the amount of water you would take out in the pictured fish tank? All right. So if they need to clean this tank, apparently, you would take out, well, obviously you'd take the fish out, and then you would take out half the water. They're saying keep that in mind, the fact that you only take out half the water. So they're asking us, what is the volume of the amount of water you would take out of the pictured fish tank? Let's come up with our strategy. I would say first we need to find the volume of the whole tank, and then volume of whole tank. And then because we're only talking about taking out half of the water, which would represent half of the volume, our second step would be to divide by 2. And that would give us half. So this is our strategy here. Okay, now that we know what steps, let's plug in numbers and work it out. Volume of the whole tank is going to be, remember the formula, length times width, width times height. Length is 24. Width of this tank, that's the 8 right there, times the height of 20. You just multiply straight across. It doesn't matter what order. 24 times 8 times 20. Big number. 4,608 inches cubed with a little 3. Remember, for 3D shapes, we put that for volume. So we did strategy number 1. What that number represents all of the water in the tank, the whole volume. But we don't want the whole volume, do we? We just want half of the water or the volume. So we divide by half. That's our second step. So we just take 4,608, cut it into half. That's going to be 2, 3, 2,304 inches cubed. And that's it. That's how you solve that one. You had to think a little bit, think a little critically there. You might see a question. I've seen a question like this on the STAR test before. Okay, so let's continue with our notes on triangular prisms now. So our new topic. Few definitions, and then we'll jump into the formula and examples. So triangular prisms use the same formula as a rectangular prism. Well, but we're going to make a tweak. We're going to make a change to this. Remember, the formula of a rectangular prism is capital B times H. Well, that was the official formula that the star chart would give you, but remember I gave you a better one, which is length times width times height, and I know you're super thankful. So we're going to be working with this actually, and we're just going to make a small tweak to that to get our triangle formula. So that'll come in a second. All right, next it says, however, the base is actually a triangle. So B is actually equal to the area of a triangle. I apologize for this handwriting. The height of the prism is the distance between the bases. Okay, just copy down these fill in the blanks, guys. I will tell you how it applies in a second. Now it says to shade the base of each figure below and then label the height of the figure and the height of the triangular base. Remember what I told you guys yesterday. You have several choices here. It's natural to think that because the shape is kind of sitting on this, on that bottom there, that rectangle bottom, that is the base. It's natural to think that, but that would be wrong. Okay, I can see why you would think that, but that's wrong. So listen carefully on how you actually find the base. The base is going to be, now there's so many sides to this. There's 6 sides to this whole shape, right? There's the 2 triangles on either side. Then there's 4, 5, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, there's 5 sides only to this one. Of those 5 sides, you want to pick the 2 that are the only 2 that are like each other and across parallel to each other. So that would be these 2 triangles. There's only 2 triangles. So this is a triangular prism in that case, and these would be our bases, either one of those. Okay, I know that we could say, well, aren't the rectangles, isn't this rectangle the same as the other rectangle on that side? Sure, but then there's a third one, right? Aren't there 3 rectangles that are exactly like each other? That one, and let's see, it's kind of hard to show on a 3D figure, right? That's a rectangle. It is, then there's the base that's a rectangle, and then there's the rectangle on the other side. There are 3 rectangles that are like each other, exactly like each other. So we can't pick one of those as our bases. The definition of the base would be the only 2 that are like each other. So the triangle is the base. Same thing on this shape. Even though it's not sitting on that triangle as the bottom, the triangle is still the base of the shape. Okay, that's kind of what I want to point out here. That's the very important thing. Now, on the next slide, we're going to talk about the volume. Now that we know what the base is, that the base is the triangle, either one of the triangles on either side. So let's just take the one on the front. The normal volume formula is volume equals area of the base, big B, times height divided by 2. Okay, that's the one that's on your star chart. But I want you to forget about that. I want you to use this one. Volume equals. Remember length times width times height for a rectangular prism? But for a triangular prism, we're just going to add that divide by 2 part. And that's the little part of it that makes it different from a rectangular prism. Okay, length times width times height, but divide by 2. That's way easier. So let's go with the length times width times height divided by 2 and plug in our numbers from this shape. Remember, we want to focus on this base area first. What is the length of the base, or length of, this shape? That would be, the length of the whole shape would be the 7. The width of the shape would be the 4 there, or the 4 here, either one. That's how wide it is. 7 times 4. And what about the height of the shape? Usually the height, remember, is represented by the dotted line. So that's going to be 3.5. Because this is all multiplication, it doesn't matter which order you put it in or really which number is what. As long as you've got those 3 multiplying at the top and at the end you remember to divide by 2, that'll get you your answer. So if you work this out, we get 7 times 4 times 3.5, that is 98 at the top, divided by 2. 98 divided by 2 is 49. 49 feet cubed. 49 feet cubed, the little 3. Okay, hope that made sense. I'm kind of obligated to give you this formula because it's what's on your formula chart, but when there's an easier way, I would always prefer that you just do that. It follows in that pattern, right, of, remember, back to our area of a rectangle, which was base times height, or we also called it length times width. We could have called it that. And then the triangle would have been base times height divided by 2. So there's always a divided by 2 when it comes to anything that's triangle related. So this is also following that same pattern. Our rectangular prism was length times width times height. Well, our triangular prism is going to be length times width times height divided by 2. So it's not as different as you think. There's a pattern to it. Just keep that in mind. So the most important thing off this slide is this is my official formula that I'm giving you. Length times width times height divided by 2. Let's do a handful of more examples so that it really sticks in your head. Next one. Next one. Remember that a figure is named by the shape of the base, which are the two faces or sides that do not touch. All right. That's how we identify the bases, kind of what I was talking about, right? The two sides that do not touch. Right there. Either way, we are using this formula since we're going to practice doing volume. We're going to do length times width times height divided by 2. I don't have a lot of room here, so volume equals length times width times height. Yikes. Divided by 2. Okay. The length of this whole shape, right, that's how long the shape is, would be the 8. The height, the width of the whole shape, how wide is it? Is 7. And how tall is the shape, the height? Well, look at, the picture and kind of what number represents how tall the shape is. That would be the 6. And you can clearly see why it would be the 6 and not this extra number 10 that's thrown in here. 10 represents a slanted side, which really doesn't have anything to do with the height. So length times width times height divided by 2. 8 times 7 times 6 divided by 2 is 168 centimeters cubed. Next one. For each one of these, same formula. Volume equals length times width times height divided by 2. Okay. Length of the shape. Length of the shape would be, well, we only have 3 numbers here on this one, so, well, it's just going to be 12, 9, and 8. 12 times 9 times 8 divided by 2. 12 times 9 times 8 divided by 2 is 432 centimeters squared. Okay, and number 4. Volume equals length times width times height divided by 2. Again, we only have 3 numbers to work with. We don't even have to honestly take too close of a look. If they give us a 4th extra number, then we kind of have to pick and choose correctly. But when they just give us 3, this is honestly how simple it is. You just plug them in, divided by 2. Okay, so that's going to be 6 times 8.4 times 5 divided by 2. Don't forget the divided by 2 at the end. Answer is going to be 126 centimeters cubed. Okay, we've got our 3 answers. So I hope y'all realize, guys, how simple this formula is, and please use it. the more you use it, actually, this formula will stick in your head, which it kind of needs to since this is not the one that's on the chart. Okay, a couple of word problems, and then we can wrap up from there. Number 5, it says draw a picture, set up an equation, and solve for each of the problems below. The base of a triangular prism has an area of 18 square inches. If the height of the prism is 9.5, what is the volume of the prism? Okay. Here sounds like we're going to be using volume equals big B times H because they've given us some different information. They've said the base of a triangular prism has an area of 18 square inches. They're giving us the area of the base, so which is why we're going to use that. Plug in 18, and they're saying the height is 9.5. Actually, you know what? We're going to hold off on this type of question for today, working backwards. I'll see if this is absolutely necessary, and if so, we might do it on a follow-up day. Let's look at number 6. A triangular prism has a volume of 240. Okay, we're going to skip this one as well. Sorry guys, I didn't look over this. These are working backwards. We'll get to that on a different day. An exit ticket. Okay, this is going to wrap up everything. The dimensions of a triangular prism are shown below. What is the volume of the prism in cubic feet? Well, it's asking for volume, so we pull our formula out. Volume equals length times width times height divided by 2. Okay, what is the length of this shape? How long it is? That would be the 11. What is the width of the shape? How wide it is? That would be the 5. And what about the height? In this case, they've given it by a dotted line. There we go. There's our 3 parts. 11 times 5 times 7 divided by 2. 11 times 5 is 55. 55 times 7, 385 divided by 2. I'm getting 192.5 feet cubed. There's our answer. And that would be more like a typical test or quiz question. All right, that is volume of triangular prisms. To summarize everything, 30-second summary. Here we go. Triangular prisms are basically like boxes, but they're boxes that have a triangle on either side. Okay, there is a tricky formula. Oops. Which is volume equals area of base times height divided by 2. But I gave you a simpler formula. This is the one that's been given to you, area of base times the height divided by 2. But I have given you length times width times height divided by 2 to use instead. So go ahead and use that. We did a handful of examples of working those out. And you should be able to solve a question like this exit ticket all by yourself. That means that you understood. Okay, so that's all of this. Rewatch any parts of the video that you need to, and you can do your homework using all of that. All right, see you guys next time.